आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। गुकारस्तु अंधकारो वै ऋकारस्तु निवर्तकः अंधकारनिरोधित्वात् गुरुरित्यभिधीयते। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। नमः श्री शङ्करानन्द गुरुपादाम्बुजन्मने सविलास महामोह ग्रासैककर्मणे। So the gist of what we have studied so far in terms of analyzing Ananda. So the analysis of Ananda is very key in our life, because we don't know where it appears to come from various experiences based on my life. You know, that I'm successful, I'm happy, this, that, all those kinds of things we have in our lives. So it does come, Ananda does come, but exactly how and where and when we cannot control. That's very obvious in our life. And so this is where the analysis needs to be done. So here what Vedanta says is that we had given this example, I believe in maybe in last class, this text or some other class, where it was shown that the Ananda, even though it is a revelation when first talked about by a teacher, that really the Atma itself is the very source of Ananda. And so one can just say, you know, put your hand there and say, wow, I didn't know that. That is amazing. So you can do all that. But then, because it is not clear, it has not had been sorted through, it doesn't really give you the results that you want, just by knowing that. So what needs to happen is to apply yourself to understand that what was talked about by a competent teacher is in fact your own life's experiences. And here Swami Akhandananda ji and Swami Maheshananda ji, both, or really all the teachers, they give this example that it's a little bit like eating, where you're very hungry and you really want to get something to eat, but the moment you start eating doesn't mean that you will be completely happy with, you know, when we start eating, even if you just take a couple of bites of something and then somebody says, okay, that's it, can't give you any more. That's not what I want. I want to continue eating, and as I continue eating, my sense of satisfaction slowly grows. So this example is to be applied to this topic of Ananda, One should really think about this. It's a very important thing to see. So what it says is that if I am studying the precepts of the self-knowledge from a teacher, and then if you expect that the Ananda will now spring forth in its full glory right away, this is like saying that as soon as you start eating, you're going to be completely satisfied. Not going to happen. Then what needs to happen is that slowly you test the truth of what is being said. Yes, this has to happen slowly, but surely. It has to be dedicated to understand the very truth of what is being said. So what that means is this. You need to slowly develop a discovery that you are actually okay. So this discovery is not going to suddenly happen because you've had such a history, long history of mistrusting yourself. And the self-experience up to now has not been very good. As an example, you ask somebody, why do you want to travel? You ask somebody, that's just this. We just had dinner with a couple of friends of ours, and they just came back from 2 back-to-back cruises for 29 days. It just happened last night. Very good friend of ours. We really liked the couple and so on. But it was interesting. So we asked them, what did you do? They said, we just got back from a 1-month cruise, 2 separate cruises. And if you really examine it, you find it is it's full of details, problems. Sometimes they couldn't get off. It was raining. So some of the details were not as though it's all fun and games. It was a lot of fun and games, I'm sure, with food and this, seeing different countries and so on. But anyway, if you ask someone, this is the point I was making, why are you traveling? Why are you going around so much? What they will tell you is, because left up to me, I'm bored. I'm bored. I don't know what to do. Because that feeling of me just being by myself, not traveling, not with some friends, not going to parties and so on, is not a good feeling. You're just sitting there by yourself. So what I'm saying is that because you've had a long history of not feeling good about yourself without some company or some things to do and some interest, outside things, we had such a long history that if Vedanta comes in and says, you know what, you are the very source of happiness, you can imagine, even though I want to trust the words, it goes against my own experience. No, I'm not well by myself. I'm lonely. I'm bored. I don't like not doing anything. This is why exactly, as you know, when you are made to wait for a telephone call, they put some music on while they're gone. And they come back and interrupt it and say, we really want to serve you, but we are a little busy, so please hang on there. So this message comes in, and immediately then some music starts. Then after a while they figured, you've been waiting long enough. Let's remind them, no, we have not gone anywhere. We'll be back in with you for a minute. Music again. Because no one wants to be alone, isolated, and so on, because you don't have a good view of yourself. So with that situation, that's such an embedded long experience. If a Vedanta guru comes along and says, you know what, you are the best source of happiness, those words don't really ring true to me. So therefore, to complete this whole topic, what needs to be done is, even though at first analysis you are not accepting yourself to be complete or even minimally acceptable, without going outside in company and so on and so forth, even though that is the case, but let me say this, try it. Try it. Little by little. See the error of your ways. So this is where in the teaching of Vedanta, this is what Swami Akhandananda ji has really impressed through his books and so on, and honestly just wonderful. We'll go directly into the teaching sometime, but I'm just bringing portions of that. He says, learn to do your own chanting. Learn it. And in the beginning your mind is going, what are you doing? Chanting? What does that do? It might happen. But if you persist and so on, you will find that just chanting, and especially God's name, slowly makes you develop a certain sense of peace and love. All the Mahatmas say this. And they say, try it. And don't try it for like 10 minutes and say, okay, it doesn't work. I've tried chanting. What else there is to do? Let me read some books. No. Be persistent. Because that is really what we are telling you is going to work for you. And what will work for you, the whole purpose of doing this, is that you will develop a sense of peace by yourself without any help. And in fact, this is what the search for Paramatma is. The search for the self is the self of Ishvara. And right now we are completely oblivious to the existence of Ishvara, of Paramatma, and my own self. Yes, I'm busy with things and so on and so forth. Self is involved, but by itself as an isolated, unimpeded self, I don't appreciate it. But I have to slowly appreciate it. Slowly appreciate it. This is what needs to happen. So there the important point is that at least we should, if we have some shraddha towards the teaching, we should understand what the teaching is saying. And basically what the teaching is saying is that, listen, the truth is that bahirmukhata, as we saw in the examples of ice cream and coffee and all those kinds of previous classes, bahirmukhata is the cause of my problems. And antarmukhata, bahirmukhata means the outward bound mind. So mukhata here means, mukham means the face. But the face here means the mental face, not the physical face. You cannot turn the physical face inwards. Mind you can. So being involved with the outside things ultimately is the cause of problems. You may have some momentary happiness, but that's just fleeting. You cannot really rely on it. And antarmukhata in the initial stages might look like it's boredom. But if you persist on it, you will see the real cause of joy. So therefore, to complete this topic, what the acharyas are saying, at least try it and slowly appreciate that you are okay by yourself. I mean, if you look at my own personal life, if I were to tell you, I have really gone through this. And now my sense is I just want to be with myself. I don't need anything else. It's not a question of ego. It's not like, oh, I dislike anyone. No, I don't need it. And it's a constant issue in the daily social life. Even my wife, for example, will say, but don't you want to have some people to talk to and friends? And I really don't want to even question her that, but I don't. That's the truth. I enjoy the experience of Paramatma. My sense of completeness is okay. Not complete yet, but slowly I'm getting to that point. And please, I'm not a fool. I want to have fun and I want to have joy and so on. But my sense of discovery, if you want to say, is now palpable. That I don't need anything else. I'm okay with myself. And at best what I would like to do is to read compatible literature that opens up this path to myself even more clearly. That I enjoy. I have some small things that I can, eating, exercising, just appreciating some local sports teams and so on. Yeah, I enjoy that. And please understand this, if I go outside and I'm just giving you my own personal story as an example. I don't really, if my wife says, we are invited to such and such place, I never say no. I enjoy that. But I don't need it. I go willingly with it. We have a very active social life, so it's not as though I'm telling you that I'm sitting in a room closed and so on and so forth. My situation is if she needs to have some social contact and so on and she needs me, of course, I'll be glad to go. But I don't initiate it. Don't initiate it. So you're happy if you're doing it. If you're not happy, you're not. You're happy if you're doing it. Happy if you're not doing it. That's the state that we want to really achieve it. So anyway, the upshot of this is that the analysis of Ananda is important because, as Swami Akhandananda ji says, you have to slowly appreciate that you are okay. You don't need anything to make you happy. And the best example of that is deep sleep. This is what we have been saying all along. This is really the main topic here. That think about it. Do you need company when you are asleep? Do you need to go somewhere on a cruise when you are asleep? And yet, the ananda of sleep is better than anything else. So there is something funny going on in here. So this is a very important hint by Ishvara. That, hey, you are okay the way you are. In fact, now if we go to the next topic, it supports this logic even more. So what is the next topic? the next topic is that I now grasp the fact that in the deep sleep state, sushupti, I am independent, I am complete, and I am happy without doing anything. Okay, all right, that I accept and I understand, but I cannot be sleeping 24 hours a day. When I come out of it, then my problems start. How do I deal with that? How do I discover Ananda on states other than deep sleep? That is the next topic that we are going to now start. Okay? So there we said that that even momentary joy outside of that, okay, does not violate the principle that the Ananda is your own Swarupa. You see what is being said? So grasp this. So in the deep sleep, there is no conflict between what is pointed out and what my experience is. My experience is that I am complete, self-luminous, uninterrupted, nature of joy, and that is what is being said. So in deep sleep there is consistency between what is being said and what my experience is. But when I wake up, my experience is that I am not complete. I am desirous of things and I am not completely happy. And yet what is being said is, actually you are still complete and happy. So now there was consistency in the deep sleep, but now a gap appears between what is said and what my experience is. And I cannot accept the gap. It has to be reconciled some way or the other. How is it going to be reconciled? This is what we have to see. So Vedanta says the reason why you don't feel completely is that, remember, in Sushupti, your I-ness, ahankara, was absent. So we have to analyze the gap. Why does it happen? We have to analyze the cause and effect. If the effect is like this, then the cause must be consistent with that. So here we say, don't you see this relationship that when your ahankara is absent, the I notion is absent, then the problems go away. So one can conclude, so therefore I should commit suicide. Because as long as I'm alive, I've got problems. And in fact, it can be argued that people who commit suicide are actually thinking that way. That my life is full of sorrow. People bug me. I can't get any satisfaction. So maybe I should just disappear. Because in this assumption it means that disappearance would give me the cessation of problems. Or total joy, who knows? So we say, don't commit suicide. We'll explain it to you and also give you the antidote to what the problem is. First of all, you have to analyze what the problem is, and the analysis itself will show you what the way out is. Okay? So there we say that the source of joy does not change. It's not as though in deep sleep the source of joy is yourself and suddenly that stops. That's not what it is. What it is in deep sleep you don't have any way of looking at your reflection. Because the entire experience of life is your mind identifying with some reflection. So the mind itself is a reflection, and you're identified with the reflection. And as a result of that, it all depends on what kind of reflection you are identifying with. Okay? So for example, in deep sleep, you are identified with Anandamaya Kosha. Anandamaya Kosha means that the section of yourself which is the very source of joy. This is the deep sleep. Then in the dream state, you are identified with your Manomaya Kosha, where your mind is now active and your sense of ahankara is also there. Although it is not the ahankara of the waking state, it's the ahankara of your dream state, but there is an ahamkara. Ahamkara means what? Ahamkara means that you don't see yourself as nirakara, without any form. You don't see that as you do in deep sleep. You see yourself with sakara. You have some kind of a body, exactly like a room space. You see yourself as a room space, not as total space. So as a result of that, your identification is with respect to the Manomaya Kosha. And in Jagrat Avastha, it makes it even worse, because in Jagrat Avastha you are associated with Vijnanamaya Kosha. Vijnanamaya Kosha means you have concluded very clearly that I am a limited person. In the dream state, you have not concluded. You have not thoughtfully concluded that you are limited. You are just limited. You have the experience of being limited. But in the Jagrat Avastha, in the waking state, you have thoughtfully thought about it, and from your own experiences you have concluded, I am a very limited person. All this time you're looking at your reflection, not at yourself. The source that you are stays there as it is. All you're doing is you're looking at the reflection of the mirror of mind, which is distorted. It's not your own reality. This is what happens. So therefore, you have your experience is based on experience, is based on identification. As we saw in the Drikdrishya Viveka, that and also in Kaivalya Upanishad classes, it is very much like going to a movie where you are identified with some character, and either you are happy in the identification, or if the character is sad, you also have a sad identification. This is exactly what happens. So in our life we are identified with our mind, and the mind is the result of a lot of previous actions and vasanas, some happy, some unhappy. In fact, there are three states. There are three states that all of us have in this life. One is sukham, happiness, dukkham, unhappiness, and udasinata. Udasinata means doesn't matter. I'm neither terribly happy nor am I'm really unhappy. I am just a normal self. I don't laugh and I'm not ecstatic, neither am I bothered. This is udasinata. So, and udasinata and the reflection of both sukham and dukkham is what is called nijananda. So these flitting back and forth between periods of happiness and periods of unhappiness, periods of udasinata. Udasina means doesn't matter. I'm okay. I'm okay. And so this is what is called nijananda. So the nijananda is also a form of brahmananda which you had experienced in deep sleep. So the source remains the same, but the filtering of it, it's kind of like the light is the same. But in the case of deep sleep, it didn't have any colored filter. And so you saw very close to what the light was. But in Sukha-Dukkham, there is a filtering of color, and you're looking at the filtered color light which is your own. It's very much like you put some dark objects and you shine light through, there's no light and you get lost. Where's the light? I'm not happy. Or if you have a red color light, which is, red is the color of desire, then you want to do something. You can seize the method of happiness and you want to do something more. So this is what it is. This is the play of Ishvara. Just an amazing creation. Same light, but there is some kind of a srishti, some kind of a creation of good and bad and so on. And so once I understand that, my goodness, my nature is light, pure jnanam. And this happens to be where you have to carefully analyze, because you're making a mistake at this point. So once that mistake is taken away, then your trust to be who you are increases. This is the process. So what needs to happen is, really they say, that I am not ready to see my own self yet. I can only see my reflection. See, along with the teaching, one has to see that I am really different from the reflection. So as we saw in the Kena Upanishad class, Pratibimbaha. So Adi Shankara says the only way, because you cannot see yourself as an object. So what you have to see is that my reflections cannot be without me. This is the analysis that you have to do. My consciousness is the one which is independent, and because of the reflection around the mind, etc., it is creating all these experiences. And in and through that, I don't change. This clarity, this acceptance comes slowly. That doesn't happen right away, for all the reasons that we mentioned before. So what needs to happen is that my reflecting surface needs to be cleaned up. So that is the next topic. Because the topic is, okay, I understand the theory, what is being said, that there is only one source of light, one source of happiness, which is me. And all that happens is that in deep sleep, I don't look at filtered reflection, and in Swapna and Jagrata, I look at filtered reflection. But then I see that it is really my own light which is being reflected. I am looking at the reflection. This much I have to understand. This is how I'm being led into it. Okay, so this is the theory, but the question is, when will I know my own self clearly enough that I can trust it and not look for any outside help? When is that going to happen? Fair question. That's exactly what we have to do. So now we enter into a topic on how you can convince yourself what you really are, which is, I am complete, I am changeless, I'm happy, I'm unconditional. When is that going to happen? It will happen if my reflecting surface gets cleaned and it becomes clearer and it becomes steady. What is the reflecting surface? The only reflecting surface that I have, which is always with me, is my own mind, or my own thoughts, my own conduct of my life, my own attitude. Those are my reflections. And what needs to happen is that mind, which can be characterized with all these other things I just talked about, it needs to become quiet, clear, spotless, and subtler. Because, for example, a mirror is the subtlest of reflecting surfaces. That's how a mirror is made. It is made with some polished. So there's actually not even any bigger particles left in the mixture of the mirror. Very fine. I don't know exactly how a mirror is made, but it has to be a very finely ground reflecting surface. So much so that it is extremely accurate in depicting whatever it is shown, and it shows that object back. This is what needs to happen. Swami Akhandananda ji actually goes into this in great detail, more than anything I have seen from any of the other acharyas. And so I think one of the classes I will take up is, what I've really enjoyed in looking at the books from Swami Akhandananda are not as much major Upanishads, because he has them, but I haven't studied them yet. Hopefully when I get time, I will to see if he has any new insights into Upanishads. Everybody does. So same message is conveyed slightly differently, and it's a pleasure listening to different teachers of the same sampradaya. So that will happen. But what I really enjoyed is his satsangs. And I've really enjoyed these the higher nature of the questions and the opportunity for him to give insights into those questions that are very revealing. And these are serious students and householders generally, householders, who said, how are we going to experience these things in our life? We're having difficulty. Please give us some hints. So in those answers, Swamiji has given some very good ideas. And in doing that, I found a lot of insight into the life of a householder. So there, one of the things he said was that you have to understand the nature of the mind. That it can do anything you want it to be. Anyway, we'll go into more details. I want to go into the details of that at this point. But what it says is, one of the things he says is, we call about antakarana shuddhi, the cleanliness of the internal organ, and all those kinds of things. What that means is exactly what is being talked about here. That you have to improve the quality of your mind. And what that means is the next topic that we are going to see. So it answers the question that I accept the premise. I accept the premise that I am in fact still the same source of joy as I am in deep sleep. But I need to close the gap between what is being said and what is my experience. How do I do that? This is what we are doing. So what is pointed out is that please see that through dedication, shraddha, and abhyasa. Abhyasa means staying with it, doing it in a very dedicated fashion, staying with the premise. So abhyasa means practice, really. Yes, you will see slowly that your mind will become clearer, and as it gets clearer and quieter, it will reflect you much more accurately than it is doing now. And you'll be able to see the sense of completeness and joy will be no longer you will be bored with yourself. You have to discover that. There is no other way to increase, to improve in life. Because, as we have said already, that bahirmukhata means you're looking for props to help you. As you, for example, supposing you're injured and you have crutches. You need crutches to be able to stand up and walk. Similarly, our mind at this point is injured, so to speak, and I need the crutches of outside things to help me keep going. Good food, good company, good experiences, good objects, all that kind of a thing. So these are crutches. And for a while, crutches are okay. When you are starting out, when you are really injured, you have to go ahead with life. You do need to get a walker or a crutch. But then how long are you going to be using crutches? It's not a question of getting better and better crutches, but it's a question of not having crutches at all. That is the independence that I seek. When is that going to happen? And so it will happen when at first you don't trust yourself to be without crutches, so you grab onto it. Slowly you practice and seeing that I am beginning to not need them. And finally you can give them away and just stand by yourself, perhaps gingerly at first, but with more and more physical therapy and so on, you can throw away the crutches and walk by yourself. This is the process we have to follow. Interestingly enough, in this process of discovering Ananda in the other states of consciousness, not just in Sushupti, Swami Vidyaranya has taken the help of Bhagavad Gita. So now we begin with an endorsement of the same concepts by Sri Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. Few verses, this is not going to be very long, but for a few verses for the remainder of this class and perhaps this class or next class, we will now show you where the same, he's almost like picked the verses from the Bhagavad Gita and inserted them in this chapter 11. And he shows this, that this is what I'm doing. So from this point on, it begins the endorsement of Sri Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita in the 6th chapter called the Samadhi Yoga. And this practice is what is called Yogananda. So remember the three different forms of Ananda: Brahmananda, Vasanananda and Pratibimbananda. We saw that last week. And so now Nijananda and Yogananda are subsets of these three. These are the three main sets: Brahmananda, Vasanananda and Pratibimbananda. And so Nijananda and now Yogananda are subsets of the Vasanananda to achieve Brahmananda. So it requires some repetition to really get to it. So what it means is this. See, Brahmananda is the direct one which is very closely associated with Sushupti. We know that. Then even in the other states, it's a combination of or one or the other, Vasanananda or Pratibimbananda. So for example, whenever you have happiness based on objects, as we saw in the example of eating a rasagulla, it is Pratibimbananda. And later on there will be Vidyananda and Vishayananda. All those will form subsets of these three alone. But here, in following the precepts of the Bhagavad Gita, Yogananda is being highlighted. What is the meaning of Yogananda? So Yogananda, yoga actually, the word yoga. So if you look at Hatha Yoga, so just really look at all the aspects of yoga. What it entails is practice with dedication, with purity, with antarmukhata, with your eyes closed. Not just going outside and doing things, but quietly just being with yourself. This is what yoga is. So in this case, as in Hatha Yoga. So this is Raja Yoga, where you are examining your own self repeatedly in a quiet manner, in a self appreciation of who you are, just by yourself. This is the process that is being talked about. Okay, so here, if we look at the first verse of the Bhagavad Gita that is being talked about, it is from chapter 6, verse number 25. So I think we'll have enough time to look at a couple of them, and we'll look at the rest in the next class. So this one is given in the Pancadasi chapter 11 as number 101. Okay, so this is equal to, this is picked out from Bhagavad Gita 6:25. So there it says, so if I just chant it the way the Gita is chanted, Shanai Shanai Uparamet Buddhya Dhriti Grihitaya Atmasamstham Manah Kritva Na Kinchidapi Chintayet. Shanai Shanai Uparamet Buddhya Dhriti Grihitaya Atmasamstham Manah Kritva Na Kinchidapi Chintayet. So this is the method of turning the attention from outside things to your own self. Atmasamstham manah kritva. Your mind should be just examining your own Atma. And how is this going to be done? Shanai Shanai means slowly. It's not going to happen overnight. Your mind is so used to running outside that it's going to protest and say, what are you doing? Why are you holding me back? What's there in the Atma? There's nothing in the Atma. So you have to really just be the boss and say, be quiet. I know what I'm doing. Okay, I'm following Sri Krishna, the Bhagavan himself. Shanai Shanaihi Uparamet. Uparama means you collect it. You collect it to be to yourself. Buddhya Dhriti Grihitaya means with some wisdom. Buddhya means wisdom, and with dedication. Griti Grihitaya. Anyway, I won't go into the details of it. I'm just giving you the overall thing. And so the combination of this is what dhiraha means. So the word dhiraha that we have seen, even in the last class we did that, is the one that carefully and strongly holds the mind, because that is the good thing that I need to do. So I dedicate myself to the goodness of what I am doing, rather than letting the mind just behave as itself. And so this is buddhya grititaya atmasamstham manafkritva na kinchit abhi chintayet. So whenever the mind is going outside, you'll say, not now. Just be quiet. Just follow me. And so this is the first stage of the abhyasa that one has to do. Let me see if there is something else that he... Yeah. So he says that as opposed to the yogic samadhi, the steps of the yogic samadhi, this is the Vedantic samadhi. So what is the difference between the yogic samadhi and nididhyasanam, the Vedantic samadhi? Before you do this, you must try to understand the glory of the Atma. Through the study of Vedanta, you should know that the Atma is complete. That should be at least clear to you. In what manner can it be complete? It should be clear to you. It should be clear to you that it is full of consciousness. I know the nature of consciousness, the nature of nirakara. It doesn't have any form. Anadi, never born, and never changes. So these kinds of mahima of the Atma, and also it is self-existing, and it is self-luminous. All these kinds of qualities of the Atma should be clear to one before you begin shanai shanaihi uparamed buddhya dhriti grihitaya atma samstham manafkritva. And so this should be clear to you even before you start, because you have to answer the mind when it says, why are you holding me back? Because I want to do things, I want to see things. And you say, I know, but I have something better. So the mind says, what better? What's better than ice cream? So you have to be able to reason that to the mind. Do you know what the quality of being self-sufficient is? I don't need any food. You know what that means? So you should be able to direct the mind by convincing it about the very quality of the Atma, the mahima of the grandeur of the Atma. If you don't do that, then you better go and do some shravanam first and complete your introduction to the Atma. Because if you don't know the grandeur of the Atma, then your mind will overcome you. You'll say, what are you doing? There's nothing there. So Swami Maheshananji makes this point. हिंदी में ही says, आत्मा में स्थित तभी हो सकता है जब इस बात को जान लिया है कि एकमात्र आत्मा को छोड़कर कुछ है ही नहीं. He goes even one step further. He says that you can only be established in your own self if you know that you are the very truth of everything that goes on. There is nothing separate from you. Now what are you going to do? So this is the first step of the process of doing antarmukhata. So I'll do one more verse and then I think we'll close the class. The next one is in the Pancadasi, it's chapter 11, verse number 102, and in the Bhagavad Gita it is chapter 6, verse number 26. And it says, yato yato nischarati manaschanchalam asthiram tatastato niyam yaitat atmanyeva vasham nayet. Yato nischarati manaha chanchalam asthiram tatah niyamya etad atmani eva vasham nayet. So he says that whenever the manaha, which by nature is chanchalam, chanchalam means it is changing. It's always never really staying at one place. It's just moving around. And whenever that happens, at that moment, be aware of the movement of the mind and bring it to yourself. Yato nischarati manaha chanchalam asthiram tato niyamya etad atmani eva vasham nayet. May you provide the leadership to it. May you lead the mind towards something better. May you learn to do that. So here, Swami Maheswaranji points out in more detail of quite a long commentary, a page and a half of this, that fundamentally you find that the mind is nishcharam, is moving for two reasons. Okay? So one of them is likes and dislikes, strong likes and dislikes. You're used to doing some things in a manner and you like to do it. Or you don't want to go in a certain direction, you want to get away from it. So raga dvesha, both ways. So this is one of the two causes. But suppose, and so the first thing one has to do, you cannot completely erase it, but you have to diminish the raga dvesha to a point, and you can be aware of it. You can see where my mind is going. It's attracted to doing something. It's must do this. Yeah, it was interesting, this last Sunday. So I usually follow one sport or maybe two sports. And in the morning when I get up, I look at, emails and so on, and also how the team is doing. So I watch a little bit of the sports that football in the case of 49ers. Okay, but I think beyond what I used to be, where I was really interested in it and so on, I'm casually interested. If they lose, it doesn't matter to me. If they win, I'm happy. And if I don't see them, I'm okay with that. So that kind of a situation. So last Sunday, there was a 49ers game that began at 1 o'clock. So this is on Sunday. We had Saturday, we were quite busy. I was teaching a class on Saturday, and then in the evening we had some other Diwali party to go to. We went to that. So it was quite busy. So I was thinking that on Sunday, after I'm doing my meditation and study, that about 1 o'clock I might watch the 49ers. And they're going through some very difficult periods. Their quarterback has changed. They lost some games. So anyway, I was interested in watching it. Then my wife said, this couple have been wanting to see us because we were down with COVID, and this gentleman had some knee operation. So we have not seen them for a couple of months. So they're asking, can we have lunch together? So I said, fine. Yeah, that's okay, no problems. I was going to watch 49ers, but I'll go with you. So we both went out to lunch at around 12:30, 1 o'clock. And so we came back around 2:30 or so. And So there you could see this raga dvesha in play, because I really wanted to see what the score was as we were driving back. Okay? But I didn't let it bother me, because my wife was talking about some things and so on and so forth. And I didn't even want to listen to the radio. I thought I'll just go home and just look at it. So I'm very happy that compared to a few years ago, my likes and dislikes really got neutralized. This is what I was saying. I like to watch the 49ers, but if I don't get to see them, it's okay. It's not a big deal. And it has come very naturally after a while. I'm amazed. I thought that I would always be under the spell. No longer. I still like to do that. I came home and I saw the score actually. They were ahead 17-3. I said, wonderful. Then while I was doing some work, I had the TV on and watched the rest of it, and didn't let me bother me at all. So this is the one thing in the mind you have to be careful about. If you're very anxious about something, then it won't let go of you. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, Swami Maheshananji says that even if your raga and dvesha have been neutralized to a great degree, the mind still wants to move. It's not as though it's just saying, okay, I don't have any raga, I don't have any dvesha, now I'm just be very quiet. No. It still would be chanchalam. And here, Swami Maheshanji makes a very beautiful point. He says, he quotes, there is a he quotes this. Oh yeah, this page. So there is a Acharya called Madhusudana Saraswati. So all these Mahatmas, they give a certain viewpoint which has really worked in their favor in their lives, and they provide pointers for others. So he said the following, and Swami Maheshananji quotes this and gives this example at great length. He said that the mind goes towards things that it perceives to be satyam. If the mind thinks of something as being truthful, it will go there. Beautiful example. He says, suppose you are hungry. Then what happens? Your mind knows that hunger can be truthfully removed by eating food. So it goes towards the food. So from this we can conclude, Swami Madhusudana Saraswati has pointed out, from this we can conclude that as long as you are perceiving things to be true, you cannot withhold your mind from going towards it. This is the thing. All right, if this is the situation, so then what do I do? So he points out that in the Bhagavad Gita, this is Madhusudana Saraswati pointing out, that in the Bhagavad Gita, the emphasis is on Sarvakarma Sannyasa. Sarvakarma Sannyasa comes quite late in the 16th, 17th, 18th chapter. So there Sarvakarma Sannyasa means that by doing karma, by doing some willful action, you are strengthening the thought that everything that I am doing is Satyam. And so therefore it has been difficult to reverse the process of keeping your mind away from it. This is the situation. So what to do then? It is important to let go of any sense of doing in your life for a while. You cannot do it forever, but create a set of conditions where you're not thinking of doing something, desiring something, accomplishing something. Leave that away from you. Having done so, the pull of Satyatvam, the truthfulness of the world, will dissipate for a while. You are now at your own self, with your own eyes closed, or even if the eyes are open, you are within your own thoughts. There, examining the mithyatvam of the world is important, because you don't have anything to pull into Satyatvam. So you are able to distinguish. So these are all advanced steps which will take a while, but devoid of the sarva karma, all the karmas, any karma, devoid of it, you are much better able to distinguish between Satyam as your own nature and Mithya as the nature of the world, through your own thoughts. Nothing pulling you. You are independently doing this analysis. And by this, it becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy. How? Because as you see the mithyatvam of the world, your mind doesn't run towards it. And if your mind doesn't run towards it, you have more occasion to see the mithyatvam of the world. So it becomes like a push-pull. Push and pull. You're pushing it in one direction, pulling it also. Both you're removing it. And so with this process, through dhyanam, through sitting down, you have a better chance of making the mind not run outside and just staying within you. Slowly. Shanai shanaihi uparamet. So this is the process that is talked about in discovering Ananda for yourself. And so very consistent with what Sri Krishna is pointing out in the Bhagavad Gita. And so we will continue this process in the next class. Okay? All right. Om Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityor Ma Amritam Gamaya Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Shanti Shanti. Nothing pulling you. So nice to see you all. Wonderful. It sounds like you are all following the logic and the teaching, and don't have any major doubts on the, otherwise you would express it. I don't see anything with respect to that, so happy about that. But if you do, then do write to me and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have. But I don't see any questions from you. So with that, I take your leave and we'll see you next week. Hari Om.